The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Tuesday, April 22nd. And today is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day today, you guys.
Yeah.
Shout out to school bus drivers, right? Not mad at that. You know, shout out to Otto from The Simpsons. You know what I'm saying?
Didn't he die?
Bro, how does a cartoon die?
They kill him off in the cartoon.
Oh man, jeez, you guys.
He did.
I don't know about all that. Mm-hmm. It's also National Jelly Bean Day today. Shout out to
you a fan of jelly beans?
Shout out to this, yeah, Jelly Bellies. You know what I'm saying? That was Ronald Reagan's favorite candy.
I'm not a fan of jelly beans anymore.
Well, it's also National Girl Scout Leaders Day today. Mm-hmm. You have nothing to say, huh, Jenny? Okay.
My Girl Scout troop leader was a bitch, so I don't, you know what I mean? Shout out to her, I guess.
Ouch. Ouch, ouch. Someone sounds triggered already this morning.
It was awful.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, you guys, it is also National Earth Day, you guys. Be kind to the earth. Mother Earth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What does Trump think about that?
Trump loves Earth. Trump loves Earth. This is where we all live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. Anyways, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are kicking it off today with the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the Zadi, who puts the Zadi in the Zadi wagon. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
I appreciate that, Jason. New Federal Election Commission filings reveal that marijuana companies donated at least $1 billion. No, I'm just kidding. $1 million
You're
to
so
Donald
funny.
Trump's 2024 inauguration, with the lion's share coming from two MSOs. Guess who they are? Yeah, Trulieve ended up contributing $750,000, and Curaleaf added $250,000 via the U.S. Cannabis Council. So not even directly from Curaleaf, but they're even getting in the game, I guess. Marijuana Moment's Kyle Yeager reported this morning on the filings details, revealing that Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers met with Trump before his endorsement in early September 2024. Following said meeting, the soon-to-be 47th president gave his vocal support of the ill-fated Florida legalization initiative, largely backed by the company. On December 5th, FEC records show Trulieve contributed $500,000 to the inaugural community before Rivers attended two pre-inauguration events, a dinner celebrating Vice President J.D. Vance and a separate private candlelight dinner. Antico. Then on December 20th, it donated another 250 grand. I guess, maybe we're gonna see things that come with Trulieve and Trump there. A little transactional love. Yeager said that whether the cannabis company feels it has so far seen any return on investment with respect to its efforts to shape federal marijuana policy is uncertain. Marijuana Moment reached out to Trulieve for comment, but a representative was not immediately available, you think. The company, meanwhile, is funding a new effort to put another cannabis legislation measure on Florida's ballot for 2026. We'll see how that goes. In addition to Florida's stillborn adult use measure, while on the federal campaign trail, Trump also spoke out in support of federal cannabis rescheduling and banking reform for marijuana businesses. But his administration has taken no public action on these issues and has remained silent on them since reclaiming office. His pick for DEA chief, Terrence Cole, holds decades-old anti-marijuana views, further complicating reform hopes. The rescheduling process remains stalled despite a Mar-a-Lago-faced Matt Gaetz claiming otherwise in an op-ed last month. Despite strong Republican voter support for cannabis reforms, the Trump administration currently has no plans to pursue them in its first year. Meanwhile, former cannabis prisoners pardoned by Trump during his first term, like at High 9 News' own Travis Cullen yesterday, are urging continued clemency for others still incarcerated. Let's all hope for that. So basically, Trump's $1 million and change of cannabis industry campaign support was fueled directly by Trulieve, Curaleaf via USA by proxy, and tipped out by Jason Beck, donating all our super chat funds and a few packs of parody gummies for good measure. Want a better idea of what the industry will ultimately look like at the end of Trump 2.0? Keep a close eye on Trulieve and Curaleaf. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News.
Man, oh man, $1 million, bro. $1 million to the campaign. That's not a whole hell of a lot in the greater scheme of everything, but it is definitely, and is not no chump change. I'll tell you that much.
Is that the most ever? I think it's got to be, right?
I maybe coming from individual cannabis companies directly. I think that you may be that may be possible.
Jason.
Yes, Jenny Beth.
I believe it is the cannabis lobby.
What the hell?
What's that, Jenny?
Thank you. How does it feel that Kim Rivers has sat down with Trump to discuss cannabis policy and you haven't yet?
How do you know that I haven't sat down with Trump to discuss cannabis policy with Trump?
I just needed to get that comment out because I want to get you going first thing this morning.
I bet people
spin you up and watch you spin around. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I don't need to spin around. You know what I'm saying? Because the reality.
You said yourself you're a spinner, Jason. Remember?
No, stop it, Rico.
I called him that, and it was terrible. I wish I wouldn't have it. You love it, Rico.
You guys are ridiculous. You guys are ridiculous. What do you have to say about this, Yarrow? I'm not gonna bait into these baiters over here.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being a spinner versus being a person who has a policy pivot.
Big difference.
Why don't you break that down for us, Yarrow? Would you like to expand upon that?
Would you like to evolve, or would you like to pivot? Would you like to pivot on your explanation of Jason flip-flopping?
I don't flip-flop, bro. I stick to the script.
Sure, slider.
Sorry, you made that easy. Sorry, buddy. All right. Well, not a big whatever. Cool. They lobbied.
I think the industry should use this as a pause to be like, hey, you know what? We need to get our shit together. We need to actually put some lobbying dollars in place, because otherwise we're going to have Curaleaf and Trulieve dictating the policy for the overall cannabis reform. And I don't think any advocate in regards with cannabis policy is going to be happy with an outcome if those two are left in charge to direct policy.
I don't know if it's necessarily quote unquote lobbying dollars, Jason. This is just inaugural funds that all these big companies are trying to pay to gain favor of Donald Trump.
Those were campaign funds,
publicly documented by everybody, quote unquote, contributing to the inaugural transitional fund. Is just looking to curry favor and get business favorability in the Trump campaign.
Get their name in the queue.
I think anybody can fairly say that, right?
I don't. I'd beg to differ and ask what's the differentiation between putting money into the campaign and putting money into lobbying.
Because it's a direct quid pro quo. It's more direct, I would say.
No, it's all the same thing.
Pretty much.
It's all the same thing.
I mean, sitting down and having a conversation with a politician and then giving money to something for said politician sounds like lobbying to me.
You know,
hey, bud, you agree you're going to do some stuff for me? What do you think about this? Are we on the same team? All right.
No. Hold on a second. You guys are getting that a little bit confused because a lot of times it's about just sitting down and having an open dialogue and explaining different points of view. And sometimes that's just what it is.
Jason, I was agreeing with you, and you fucking literally fought against it.
I didn't fight against it. I was just making another statement. I don't understand why you try to say that I'm fighting already this morning. It's early.
It is early.
Here's what comes up for me, which is it's business. Did you want to say something, Jenny?
Nope.
Okay. It's unfortunately business as usual that companies that have no business in politics seem to get involved in the business of politics. And yet it is painfully ironic that cannabis companies are giving to federal candidates when it is still federally illegal. Like that in and of itself just seems awfully odd. And maybe federal candidates shouldn't be able to accept money from cannabis companies until they make it legal federally.
That's an interesting perspective, Yarrow, and that would take all of our efforts out of the mix of everything, and that would be super interesting because I know a number of lobbyists that are paid by cannabis companies that actually use the Senate credit union as their banking resource, and so that would be super interesting if that was the case. But I hope that does not come to pass because that would put a big damper on the progress of what we're able to accomplish. Or
maybe it would give them an incentive to make it federally legal if they want them dollars.
That's not how that's going to work, bro. Unfortunately.
What's the return on their investment so far, Jason?
Oh, there's been amazing returns on the investment so far, Rico. Amazing, huge returns. Huge returns. So if you're a federal candidate and your job is to uphold the federal law, and the companies that are giving you money are breaking the federal laws, how does that work? Why are they not motivated with some sense of urgency to reconcile that and make that not a big conflict? Because it is a conflict. I once believed in your policy a little bit, Yarrow. But here's the thing. In regards with that is during the Bush administration, Bush #2 campaigned against closing all of the cannabis businesses in the state of California, and they were only in the state of California during that time. Now, I personally donated to President Bush because I was always thinking that, hey, you know what? If I get raided by this guy, then I'm going to be able to make a whole news story saying how he accepted campaign funds from a drug dealer, in essence. So I get where you're coming from, but I just think that the whole industry and society overall, we have definitely evolved immensely from where we were back then to where we are today. So, all right, well.
Yep, and the return has been zero, Jason, on a federal level.
That is not true. That is not true already. That is not true. But nonetheless, we are going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested, every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Weird. Throw in. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. There we go. And we are back, you guys. So I have my first story today, you guys. Rico had to dip out, so we just got Jenny Beth with us along with Yarrow today. So
wow, you say that like we're not enough.
No, you guys are so enough, and I'm so blessed that you guys are here today. So don't get it twisted. I'm honored.
Coming up, my favorite jelly bean. He's the fart flavor from the Harry Potter edition. The hot head honcho, Jason Beck.
Oh yes, good morning, you guys, and just for the record, I have 3 stories today. This one is a little long, so I do apologize, but it's a lot of really interesting information. And Yarrow, I really can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. Yep, because top Hobbs aide put the thumb on the scale in Arizona marijuana license dispute. A lawsuit alleges, you guys. That's right. Oh, that's right. Your guys' favorite company, Trulieve Cannabis Corp, had a problem. It couldn't get another license to sell adult use marijuana in Arizona. Its subsidiary application for the license had been rejected by the Arizona Health Department, a decision affirmed by the administrative law judge and then a superior court judge. The rejection spanned roughly a year from 2022 to 2023, after which the company hired a lobbyist and tried another path. She appealed directly to Governor Katie Hobbs, Chief of Staff Chad Campbell, records show, and in a quote, "This issue will take you," the lobbyist texted Campbell. And after Campbell asked if a policy staffer could help instead, they said, "I don't think policy staff would be able to move the needle," he said. That's a good lobbyist right there. After multiple meetings between the lobbyist and Campbell, the Arizona Department of Health and Human Services reversed course. The department settled a lawsuit and gave the license to Trulieve, you guys. Wow, look at how fast that happened. 2 weeks before that settlement became official, the lobbyist texted Campbell in a quote, "Just wanted to thank you on Trulieve issue. You are pretty awesome." That's a nice text. The conversation and timeline are documented in a recent lawsuit filed against the Hobbs administration in Maricopa County Superior Court, and the case brought by marijuana entrepreneur Mason Cave and his company Arizona Wellness Center Springville alleges that granting Trulieve's application for the license was a violation of Arizona's gift clause and other laws. The April 13th lawsuit includes a claim the governor's office tipped the scales in Trulieve's favor. It documents political donations to Hobbs as the licensing matter was pending and ties between her aides and the marijuana industry. Cave said he was concerned about desperate treatment of license seekers, and himself included, and that the governor's office was swayed by what looks like an exertion of political influence to get a result that's counter to what the department was saying and what the courts had ruled. Hobbs spokesperson Christian Slater said Campbell had nothing to do with the settlement and attacked Cave as motivated by sour grapes, they say, because he had his own case that did not go the same way. In an additional quote, "There is no evidence that the governor's office improperly directed ADHS decision-making in either his or Trulieve's case," Slater said. The health department independently decided to end the legal dispute with Trulieve to avoid racking up more legal fees, he said. And the legal path to Trulieve's license, you guys, that's right, because Trulieve's licensing issue stems back several years. The Trulieve subsidiary Sherry Dunn LLC first applied for a dispensary registration certificate to operate in La Paz County back in 2016, but was denied. Sherry Dunn did ultimately get the certificate, but not until late 2021, and after a ruling by the Arizona Supreme Court found the state improperly denied applications for medical dispensaries in La Paz County in 2016. Arizona's 2020 measure legalizing adult use marijuana allowed entities that already had a medical dispensary certificate to apply for a dual license and was an early applicant, and that application had to be made during a 3-month window from January to March of 2021. The dual license also allowed for adult use sales, cultivation, and manufacturing. Sherry Dunn sought a dual license in early 2022, and the health department denied the application, explaining that Sherry Dunn did not apply in early 2021 as required, and Sherry Dunn went to court to challenge that decision. But an administrative law judge and a Maricopa County Superior Court judge disagreed with Sherry Dunn's position, and the state should waive the deadline to apply based on the prior case. Granting such a waiver would require this court to ignore the law, assume the existence of hypotheticals upon a hypothetical fact, and improperly act in place of ADHS, the agency tasked with regulating these matters, a Maricopa County Superior Court judge ruled back in September of 2023, and then Trulieve appealed. But about 6 months later, after Trulieve lobbyist Wendy Briggs contacted Campbell, the health department settled. Briggs made an argument that ADHS is expanding tremendous financial resources on outside counsel fighting a case that the Arizona Supreme Court will eventually overturn in favor of Sherry Dunn LLC, and it has in the past, in quotes, according to an October 2023 email to Campbell that is included with Cave's lawsuit. The February 24th settlement approved Sherry Dunn for the dual license and ended the appeal, and in addition to other provisions, the agreement required Sherry Dunn to defend the settlement should the health department be sued, as a result documents show. And in a quote, ADHS chose to settle the matter to avoid a long, costly court battle it was likely to lose at the Arizona Supreme Court based on the unique facts of the case and the Sagaro healing decision, Slater said. The Sagaro healing decision was the older case that led Sherry Dunn to get its medical dispensary certificate back in 2021. And in that case, the Superior Court judge and the Court of Appeals affirmed the health department's 2016 decision denying a dispensary certificate to Sagaro Healing and two others hoping to operate in La Paz County. And Sherry Dunn's application was denied, but it was not a party to the lawsuit. Ultimately, the Arizona Supreme Court said in 2020 the prior judges got it wrong and reversed their rulings. The Hobbs administration contends key differences, and Cave said he was following the Trulieve case as it wound through the system because he felt it was similar to his efforts to get a dual license for Arizona Wellness Springville. Arizona Wellness received a dispensary registration certificate in March of 2023 and wanted to, alongside other company, get a dual license. That was denied by the health department, and so Cave filed the lawsuit, records show. A Maricopa County judge ruled against him in November, finding that his claim was moot because Cave did not open the medical dispensary within 18 months of getting the certificate, as required by law. Because that invalidated the dispensary certificate, he was not eligible for the dual license, the court said. Cave has appealed. And the state contends the situations between Trulieve and Arizona Wellness were not the same, and Slater said the department consulted attorneys and decided not to begin settlement negotiations with Arizona Wellness because of a ruling in the case that said Arizona Wellness cannot, even under the most favorable interpretation of the facts, become a dual licensee as a matter of law. That's a quote. The simple truth, one Mr. Cave can't seem to accept, is that he and his entity were not similarly situated to Trulieve, Slater said. And the lawsuit follows political donations from marijuana industry to Hobbs because Cave's case documents the lobbyist communications with Campbell and Campbell's prior role advocating for marijuana legalization. It includes multiple pages of political contributions to Hobbs or the Arizona Democratic Party during the time frame Trulieve was lobbying the governor's office to resolve the issue. Those donations fueled Cave's concerns that marijuana licensing provisions are not applied fairly, and that the governor's office granted the license to Trulieve based on an assumption of how a court would rule on the case. Cave has previously sued the department over licensing application deadlines and has advocated for making it easier to establish dispensaries in rural parts of the state. In a quote, "The situation raises serious concerns about the separation of powers and checks and balances that I was taught in middle school, which are completely askew in this case," he said. The Arizona Capital Times first reported on Cave's lawsuit, and prior to joining the governor's office in 2023, Campbell ran the political campaign to legalize marijuana. His political firm was paid hundreds of thousands over the course of a campaign through a political action committee primarily funded by Harvest Enterprises. Oh, that's interesting, because that is the company that Trulieve bought in Arizona, a marijuana company that Trulieve later bought. Oh, look at that. Briggs was texting Campbell about Trulieve from September of 2023 to February of 2024, according to the messages attached to Cave's lawsuit. And the lawsuit says Trulieve donated $5,400 to the Arizona Democratic Party on October 12th of 2023, and Briggs donated $5,000 to Hobbs on October 19th. State campaign finance records confirm those donations. Briggs' donations came about the same time that her lobbying firm, Veritas, hosted a meet and greet for the governor at the firm's clients, and the company posted images of the event on social media. Briggs did not return calls or an email seeking comment for this story, and the Arizona Dispensaries Association, a political action committee funded by dispensaries, has also previously backed the Hobbs administration, including with a $25,000 contribution to the governor's controversial inauguration fund. The Dispensary Association's largest donor in recent years was Trulieve, state records show, and a Hobbs aide. That's right, because there's the lawsuit is, in quotes, sour grapes, you guys. Cave's latest lawsuit claims the state settlement with Trulieve is a violation of the Arizona's Constitution's gift clause, which prevents public resources from being used for private benefit. Past court rulings have said the dollars spent cannot greatly exceed the value of the public, and his lawsuit said that the $25,000 fee Trulieve paid for the dual license falls vastly short of its roughly $10 million value. Cave asked the judge to revoke the license granted to Trulieve and order the state pay his attorney fees, and his case does not name Trulieve or the subsidiary as defendants. And Slater denied any gift clause violation and said the governor's office would file a motion to dismiss the case on which it expects to prevail. He said both Trulieve and Arizona Wellness hold those licensing decisions independently assessed by ADHS in accordance with the law. And just as any other business could have, Trulieve followed the rules, paid the same application fee as all other applicants, and was granted a license for doing so after the settlement proceedings with ADHS, he said. Slater said the lawsuit was, in quotes, little more than a sour grapes ad hominem attack on dedicated public servants that makes a tortured and tangential claim about gift clause violations alongside institutions that belong in a politically driven opposition research hit rather than in a court filing. Cave disputed that attack. And in an additional quote, as a private citizen who voted for Katie Hobbs, not a politically motivated opponent, I find the governor's office misleading tactics and attempts to divert accountability deeply frustrating, he said. Well, Arizona, it sounds like you guys got a hot mess on your hands, and I can't wait to hear what you two have to say about this.
Go, Yarrow.
First of all, you need to take a play out of Rico's playbook and start summarizing this stuff, because I don't even have ADHD, and about 2/3 of the article, I can hear Dave Chappelle's Wrap It Up box. Okay? I'm sorry.
I knew you were going to say that, Yarrow, too.
It's not that I don't like hearing you read. It's just sometimes I want more than a bedtime story, and that puts me to sleep. That's just me, and I'm already on coffee.
Okay. Have some more.
Secondly, I think that it's interesting how we're seeing a little bit of a theme, and the story's being covered, at least today, about the influence or impact of money on politics, policy, and the regulated cannabis industry. It would be naive for me to think that all this is going to happen in some sort of ivory tower where money doesn't have an impact. And I think companies that are splashing the cash around need to think not just about the return they get on that money, but being mindful of the potential or actuality of bad optics. And so sometimes there doesn't need to be fire where there's smoke. Sometimes shit just looks bad, and the fact that it looks bad is not a good look. Now, I don't know what went down, but I can tell you that when the 800-pound flush gorilla in the living room is throwing around its money in a way that appears to be designed to have an advantage, that's generally not going to be the most sustainable model in terms of getting along with other players in the industry, as well as, you know, a level playing field, right? So I can't, I mean, this truly does seem to be having a pattern of trying to lead with its strongest card, which is its wallet or its debit card, as the case may be, whether it's giving $1 million to Trumpy Trumpo, whether it is, you know, sponsoring a measure in Florida, whether it's this in Arizona. We're starting to see this pattern. I don't think it's the optimal pattern for them to be conveying. I think there's probably more effective ways to use that money than to sort of just be the bully. And I think governments need to be really, really careful about avoiding lawsuits, which ultimately are paid by the taxpayer. And so governments going out of their way to be extra fair, extra transparent, a singular standard for how business is done, it is super, super important. And when that doesn't happen, we see it time and time again that there are lawsuits because people don't feel like they have any other recourse. And lawsuits are expensive. And the people who pay for those lawsuits are the taxpayer, and not just the cannabis consuming taxpayer, but every taxpayer. And so if regulated cannabis wants broad support from most taxpayers, it would be well served to try to figure out how to avoid being a lawsuit cost to everybody.
Right. Yeah. Well, here, let me summarize the article for you, Yarrow, and everybody else in the chat, because Tori Lark said you blew his high, Jason.
That's all right.
But
you know,
summary: Kim Rivers threw a fit and some money around and got a license. The end.
that's the summary. That's all you got, huh? That's all you got. Nothing to say about Katie Hobbs or anything else like that, or you know what I mean? You know. I mean,
I'm sad for the people that voted for her.
What about the dead people that voted for her?
Oh boy. Well, they can't get any sadder, so they're all right. Yeah. That was the longest fucking story, Jason. I'm gonna teach you how to summarize.
I'm sorry. Like I didn't have time today. It wasn't an option. So I apologize. And I guess after that we will move on. Jenny Beth, you want to introduce Yarrow?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me take him off the show. Yeah. Although he was a no-call, no-show yesterday, we let him keep his job because he was stuck under a lily pad deep within the Shire. My favorite realtor, Yarrow Kubrin.
Oh, thank you. It is funny because my daughter's name is Lily, and I'm not a realtor. I'm a real estate professional. No license since 16, thanks to my cannabis exploits. But that said, it is never a bad day when I start my morning being introduced by Jenny B. So, without further ado, Tuesday, April 22nd, only a couple days off the heels of 420, allow me to read my article, taking us all the way across the world to talk about the stigma of cannabis. So without further ado, from the Indian Express, and I don't mean indigenous, I mean the country of India, Madhuri Dixit's husband, Dr. Nene, says India is hypocritical for marijuana and recalls prescribing cannabis to cancer patients in U.S. Quote, not a big deal. Madhuri Dixit's husband, Dr. Nene, spoke about administering cannabis to cancer patients in the U.S., where it's legal in many states, and said it might not be as big a deal as it's made out to be. Actor Madhuri Dixit's husband, Dr. Nene, operates a YouTube channel where he conducts conversations around health and lifestyle. He also involves Madhuri and their two sons, Aaron and Ryan, in some of his videos. Some months ago, he hosted YouTuber Ranveer, I can't pronounce the last name, on his channel, where they discuss drug use, both medically and recreationally, and their impact. And the use of cannabis in its various forms is legally prohibited in India. He began the conversation by bringing up ayahuasca, a hallucinogen that originates in South America. Addressing Ranveer, he said, the first question you asked me was about ayahuasca, and I remember thinking, wow, this guy is really deep into meditation, taking trips. The interesting part is, I have so many friends who are artists, who are thinkers. Steve Jobs said it. He said, the advantage between Microsoft and me is that I used to drop LSD. Jobs was such a free thinker that he could almost see the future. The guy wasn't a coder. He was a master marketer. He also said that India takes a hypocritical approach on substances such as marijuana because aesthetics have been using it for years. Dr. Nene continued. So here's the interesting part. We think about a lot of medicine, right? And we're learning some things which they thought were harmful aren't. Like LSD was originally formulated to be used on soldiers to make them war machines. But what we're finding now is that it may be beneficial for depression. There may be benefits for these other things. Cannabis used to be a Schedule I drug. Sorry, buddy, it still is. We would prescribe it to our cancer patients because it would really help with their appetite after chemo and also help them with their nausea. Also, in patients with chronic fatigue syndrome and other things, we did. And now they've done it in the US, that they've legalized it. They've controlled it. My fear is that people using it may get into trouble because, according to some surveys, people are using cannabis now more than alcohol in some cases. So this article goes on, but because Jason took all the oxygen out of the room reading his 27-minute article for me, I just want to summarize this by talking about cannabis stigma, which in mature recreational markets, we often think is limited to a few senior citizens who maybe read the good book too much. In fact, there are countries like India, which houses the largest population of any country in the world, I believe. Don't fact check me. I'm probably wrong every day. And yet, and is the birthplace of Ayurvedic medicine and many other plant-based ideas. And yet, they are still at the beginning of having a conversation about destigmatizing cannabis and allowing the population there to use it without fear of prosecution. So I thought I would just kick this off as we bask in the afterglow of 420 to remember there's still a lot of progress that needs to be achieved internationally. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
Well, it doesn't have to be the afterglow, Yarrow, because today's 422.
It's 422. Deuces. Like Chuck Woolery, like 2 and 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll be back.
I mean, yeah, I guess, this is really is.
I mean, I find this very interesting because, I mean, like India probably has like the largest population as far as a country overall. I mean, the closest country that even compares to that, their population is China, and India is such a much smaller landmass. And I know that cannabis is crazy popular in India, like crazy popular. Like that might be the #1 market in the entire world for cannabis sales.
It's because they all work at call centers and need to chill the fuck out after listening to us scream about our AT&T bills all day.
That is so tropey. I cannot believe you even felt comfortable saying that. India's
have we met?
Oh man, yeah. It's amazing how under-evolved that country is in regards to stigma on policy, and how I mean that's both a huge market and a place where stifled innovation because they don't have a path to doing anything special over there. It's a problem.
You have anything else you want to say on this, Jenny Beth Dills? All right, fair enough. Thank you so much for covering this today, Yarrow. We appreciate it very much.
Well, Jason's being so sweet this morning.
Yeah, shout out to India.
Oh, it's just sugar in your coffee?
Yeah, shout out to, we're going to be right back right after this commercial break. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi. And we are back, you guys. We are going to roll right into Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis, a business that can help you keep your business on track, whether that's BioTrack or MedTrack. She can also help you if you are criminally justice impaired with her 501c3, Justice Served. That's right, it is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Well, we're going to Alabama, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Alabama's troubled medical cannabis program is hitting the reset button again. A Montgomery judge has tossed out the latest round of license awards, ruling that the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission improperly used an emergency rule to issue licenses last December. This decision wipes out dispensary and integrated licenses that hadn't yet been finalized, forcing the entire process to start over for a third time. The commission has faced repeated legal challenges for failing to follow Alabama's Administrative Procedures Act, instead creating its own inconsistent scoring system and unclear rules. The court found there was no real emergency to justify bypassing standard procedures, calling out the AMCC for misusing its authority. With this latest setback, experts say it could be another year before Alabama issues its first medical marijuana licenses, making it nearly 5 years since legalization. Lawmakers may now look to new legislation, to streamline the process and avoid further legal roadblocks by potentially expanding license availability. So once again, we have a state that passed some legislation because their constituents wanted it, and a government who has no intention of letting that actually come to fruition. So we say we want cannabis, but we don't, so we're going to block it and stop it any way we possibly can. It's been 5 years, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Throw it back to you guys, but this is funny.
Alabama. I mean, is anyone really surprised that this is happening out there? Right? No, huh? Yeah, I feel you, Yarrow. I feel you. I'm not too surprised by this news either. Not one bit in the slightest. Whatsoever. I mean, maybe they need a reset. I mean, because their program is super restrictive. It sounds like the licenses went out to like the Good Old Boys Club and whatnot, and maybe that is exactly what they need, is a reset. You have any thoughts on that, Jenny?
I mean, I'm sure it went out to the Good Old Boys Club because this is Alabama, right? So somebody's cousin Billy Bob got a bunch of shit. But like at the end of the day, you can't. How are you resetting something that hasn't started? Like you can't. This is just like a complete non-start of a program. It's been 5 years since they voted to legalize medical marijuana, and not a single gram of medical marijuana has been sold in the state of Alabama in 5 fucking years, Jason.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
I guess if I had to opine, I would say it's. I don't know that it's entirely fair to frame this as yet another setback. This, to me, seems like the prize you get for stupid games. And so if they use the emergency orders in the way in which they issue licenses, that was the setback. And now it's just coming to roost through a court action. The way in which licenses are given out needs to be fair and transparent. We talked about it in the Arizona article with TrueLeave earlier today. Governments are well served to have an even playing field, to be transparent in what they're doing, and to not do stupid shit. I mean, we've seen this over and over and over, from Illinois hiring that foreign company for millions of dollars to do their lottery. We've seen it. We've seen the stop-start over and over and over for the way that licenses are issued or not issued. And it's like, at what point does some bean counter not understand that just doing it in a way that is fair and transparent is probably going to be less expensive than having to roll something back or defend your processes later? It's just, I mean, the reason Denny and I we're not surprised. We're like, yep, here we go again.
Yep.
I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Yes, the fuck you did. Did it anyway. Fair enough. Well, we are going to keep. Somebody was sitting somewhere in an Alabama fucking office, and they're like, let's ask for forgiveness, not permission, Johnny.
And it's not just, I mean, like, to be fair, it's not just in new markets. It's not just in medical markets. It's in existing markets. I mean, I can look no further than the town that's directly south of me, Petaluma, in the way that they issued dispensary permits. And like, there was a lack of transparency in how they graded and what the rubric was. And so I just don't understand over and over and over why government in general, whether it's local, state, federal, doesn't understand their mandate isn't just to do what they do, but it's to be very clear about what their intention is, what their guidelines are, and then what their decision-making process was. And that's the only way to avoid, it may not even be a way to avoid downstream litigation, but it is a way to create confidence in the process and to limit downstream litigation.
Man. I think you might be right about that part, Yarrow, ultimately. And yeah, right. And
I mean, this article keeps talking about how they kept changing things.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to be okay with that? Oh, no. The goalpost is over here.
Exactly.
Oh, wait a second. Wait, the setbacks is this. Like, nobody's going, you're not going to make anybody happy that way.
Yeah, exactly. Keep changing the goalposts. It's not going to work out. I agree with you on that.
Or just hire HDL and let them fuck it up for you.
Oh boy. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade. And in a GMP certified facility, so you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys. All right, we're going to roll into these final two commercials and try to power through these and, you know, end as close to on time as possible, okay? You guys with that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, Nevada's first cannabis lounge closes its doors. And I was going to have Todd do this story today, but he couldn't make it today. He's actually flying out here to California today. With the closing of Thrive Cannabis Marketplace's Smoke and Mirrors Cannabis Lounge, many are wondering what the future holds for the marijuana industry in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thrive Smoke and Mirrors Cannabis Lounge closed its doors on April 4th, and this is not an April Fool's joke. It was the first of 2 state-sanctioned cannabis consumption lounges to open in Nevada when it made its debut back in February of 2024. In a quotes, there should be more lounges out there, especially if you're in a legal space and are bringing money to the city. Then they would have the ability to give users a space to do such things. And if you're going to have places that are not private property, at least have some places for people to use and partake. Tourists, Parrish Maynard said in a quote. Dazed Consumption Lounge was the second lounge to open just 2 months later on Desert Inn Road inside of Planet 13 Dispensary, and it is the last standing public marijuana consumption lounge at this time currently in Las Vegas. Cannabis lounges were viewed as a solution that could provide tourists greater access to the Nevada cannabis market that saw more than $829 million in taxable sales in 2024. In a quote, it would be nice to have a little lounge area to kick back for outdoor areas. I do appreciate it if they would let us smoke at least 4 outdoor areas, said tourist Nasir. It's not clear when another cannabis lounge could open, but according to the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board, 21 additional lounges have earned approval and another 10 licenses have been set aside for prospective lounge owners. Nevada's potential to capitalize on the cannabis industry will depend on continued collaboration between the Cannabis Compliance Board, state legislators, and aspiring lounge operators. So it sounds like Larry has the only game in town, but you know what? They're also forgetting about New Woo, which is also out there in the great state of Nevada and apparently is popping. And I did reach out to Todd and asked him for a statement in regards to this, since he is based in the Silver City. He says, "Hey, buddy, I'm sorry. The business model for lounges in Nevada are very restricted and a little ridiculous. If you ask me, you have to be able to sell and smoke weed in the same place. There's not a lot of money to be made on chewing gum, popcorn, and trinkets. The one that won't fail and has been successful is New Woo Dispensary and Lounge, where you can literally order from the menu of the dispensary and get it delivered right to your table," he says.
All right. Well, I mean, we know that Todd prefers to consume in his hot tub, so that's good to know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Lounges, no one's got a great lounge model in my personal opinion. So, like the ones we have in California, where you weren't allowed to actually serve hot food.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you can't just cut off one arm of a hospitality business. If you're going to have a restaurant, then you have a fucking restaurant. If you're going to allow smoking weed in your restaurant, then you should allow people to get weed in your restaurant to smoke.
I agree. Any thoughts on this whole debacle? They were all hyped up about all these cannabis lounges being so big and they're going to do so great out of there in Nevada, and it seems like no one cares about them. Yarrow, you're on mute.
I don't think that it's nobody cares about them. There's this one gal, and I'm forgetting her name, who's been at the forefront of sort of like the consumption optimization. I'd have to.
Are you talking about Danny?
I'd have to go to LinkedIn to remember her name. I want to give her a shout out.
I think you're talking about Danny.
But what she said a couple years ago is like, look, these are not necessarily profit centers. They will get more people through the door of your dispensary, but they're not going to be some amazing margins that are just going to be some bolt-on, increase to your bottom line. And she was probably ahead of the curve in saying that. But I think businesses that didn't adjust to that thinking and thought that consumption lounges were going to be very profitable in and of themselves are going to be left, or are being left, flat-footed. I do think that a consumption lounge brings people to a dispensary. I do think it is a big difference in the experience of what people can go and enjoy, and selling all these little ancillaries and food and those things is really important for them to be able to even have a marginal markup and have some profit. But if we look at the profits for or the markups in grocery stores or restaurants, it's not always this big chunky profit center. I do think that the consumption lounge is the way of the future, because it's the way of the present, because it's the way of the past, because human beings want to enjoy cannabis in social settings and with their friends, and so just legalizing the way human beings want to behave anyway, I think makes a lot of sense. I think it's sound public policy. I don't know that it becomes this profitable thing. And what I know about Nevada, or at least Las Vegas specifically, is like they are the best at hyping up anything and making it the biggest, the best, the baddest, the grandest. I don't know that that's really where consumption lounges are eventually going to rest. I think they are something that people are going to want to be able to go and enjoy because that's how humans consume cannabis anyway. And it is indicative of the normalization of cannabis. So I don't think that a cannabis lounge not doing well or going out, or even a wave of them not doing well, is an indication that the consumption lounge is a dead idea. They may have just had an antiquated model where they thought it was going to be very profitable and it wasn't.
Very, very, very possible. You could. Oh, you all right, Jenny? You all right over there?
No allergies.
You have any final thoughts on this?
I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of really not news. It's like, I'm sorry that you went out of business.
All right. Well, all right. We're gonna roll into the final story of the day, seeing as how Jenny Beth doesn't have any other thoughts on this. And the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control, you guys, raises questions about Cincinnati's marijuana festival, you guys. A marijuana festival took place at the Hamilton County Fairgrounds in Cincinnati on Saturday, making it one of the first of its kind in Cincinnati. The single day Cincy Cloud Festival called itself the ultimate 420 experience, according to the organizer. Cannabis chic, and tickets for the adults 21 and over event start at $30 and range up to $100 and include festival goodies, merchandise, and even some elevated experiences, they said. Marijuana consumption is allowed on site, and the festival advertisement reads, and WLWT spoke with representatives from numerous agencies, including the Hamilton County Fairgrounds, including the board president, Crystal Holthius, the Hamilton County Sheriff, Charmaine McGuffrey's office, and the Hamilton County Prosecutor, Connie Pillich office, the Butler County Fairgrounds, the Ohio Attorney General, David Yost office, and several local attorneys and legal scholars, a dispensary operator, and the state regulator known as the Division of Cannabis Control. The festival's website advertised in quotes, high-end vendors, edibles, and live music with tickets ranging from $30 to $100. We said that. Ohio's adult use marijuana laws are relatively new and are highly regulated, with rules defining where consumption and sales can take place. The first adult use dispensaries opened in Ohio during August of 2024, and following a voter-led statewide initiative. The state approved its medical marijuana program back in 2016 of September, and the Hamilton County Fairground Board President Crystal Holtz said that sales of cannabis products would not take place on site, and that she was not aware that consumption of marijuana would be permitted. In a quote, "It's 99% chance it's illegal," Kent Caitlin, Northern Kentucky University law professor, said in an additional quote, "Part of the law is what law enforcement officers are willing to enforce, and so I think there's more interest in not enforcing it than enforcing it right now, and that may be where we are," he says. In an additional quote, "The short answer is no. This type of activity is illegal. Local jurisdictions cannot issue permits for the sale of marijuana outside of a state licensed dispensary, such as at fairs, festivals, and other public facing events," said Jamie Crawford, a spokesperson for the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control. And in a quote, they say, "Sales of marijuana are only permitted to occur at dispensaries licensed by the Division of Cannabis Control. Sales outside of those dispensaries are illegal and enforceable by law enforcement. And for any other questions about this specific situation, I would direct you to local law enforcement agencies." That they end the quote with that. 40 deputies with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office were contracted to provide security for the event as of Friday morning, and Holthius said that later that day, asking if the office was aware and if action would be taken, a spokesperson, Kyla Woods, responded with, "From what I understand, we are not notified about the event until this week, when an off-duty detail was requested." Wood said via text message, "Although cannabis consumption, possession, and cultivation are legal in the state of Ohio, off-duty employment by the Cincy Cloud Festival currently violates HCSO department policy, and additionally, at this late notice, the event could not be staffed." The department spokesperson did not say whether enforcement actions would be taken for events advertised like this, and direct requests to McGuffrey on Saturday were not immediately returned. In an additional quote, "I would interpret that as saying if their guys were there and they saw what was going on, they would be required to shut it down. But if they were not there, they don't have to see what's going on and nobody has to call and make a complaint, Caitlin said. In an additional quote, they want to avoid making arrests that prosecutors aren't going to want to bring the cases, or if prosecutors bring the cases, juries are going to acquit. So a lot of those are traps that law enforcement wants to avoid, they said. In an additional quote, in addition, the Division of Cannabis Control always reminds Ohioans that according to the initiated statute passed by voters in 2023 of November, the use of non-medical cannabis in a public area is considered a minor misdemeanor. And Crawford said it should also be noted that, like alcohol, use of non-medical cannabis by individuals under the age of 21 is also prohibited. And in February, Ohio Senate pushed forward a set of sweeping changes to the state's adult use marijuana legal framework, the first since the passage of November 2023 voter initiative, and it's now being considered by the State House. If the bill becomes law, it will reduce the potency of THC extracts to 70% from 90%, limit serving sizes of edible products from 100 milligrams per package and 10 milligrams per serving, and allow the expungement of marijuana-related convictions that were made legal under the 2023 initiative, among other changes. SB 56 also imposes serious penalties for smoking, vaporizing, or combusting cannabis in a vehicle, including as a passenger, and the American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio said, which opposes the bill, these penalties include mandatory jail terms for first-time offenses and steep fines, end quote. With the exception of the statement from Cannabis Control, each agency contracted regarding this issue was referred to another agency regarding whether these events could take place, and none could offer an affirmative answer. In the final quote, the marijuana is being sold to the public through an admission fee, and that really means it has to be done through a dispensary, Caitlin said. So, public or private, the fact that they're charging people to come in makes it a problem. Cincy Cloud Festival organizers would not allow WLWT in the venue and denied multiple requests for an interview or a comment. Man, it sounds like they just had like a private trap sesh, but tried to make it an event, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. It sounds like no one knows what to do. And it's man.
Ladies first.
You on mute, Jenny?
Go ahead.
He said ladies first, Jenny.
I was going to go in, never mind. I was going to go in height order. So we started with Jason. We were going to go Yarrow next, then me, but shit. All right, fine. Sorry, Yarrow. I mean, like, yeah, sounds like they had a trap sesh. I really want to speak probably more on the changes to the laws. Like, that potency restrictions when you're talking about concentrates is absolutely fucking retarded.
I thought so, too.
So I think that that's going to be a big fat loser for them. And, you know, what we see when governments try to put up stupid legislation, it usually passes. So sucks for you, Ohio. I don't know how that's going to necessarily work out, but all right, shitty diss. Here we come.
So here's what comes up for me.
No, boy.
First of all, compliance is super complicated to those of us who are not as well trained at it as Jenny. I mean, my eyes roll back in my head, smoke comes out of my ears instead of my mouth, and I get like, I go on tilt every time I think about compliance. So it's great for cannabis entities to outsource very skilled contractors when it comes to compliance, but it's also, I can understand as we navigate rules and regs where breaches of compliance can occur. The thing for me, and maybe this is just coming from a legacy perspective, is I would rather see entrepreneurs push the envelope and think about ways to grow the industry and to deal with the consequences of that than to be like, oh, wait, can I get permission? Hold on, subsection 3.5.2.1. And I think Ohio rolling out an adult use market has done a better than average job. I mean, if not to make it too political, but if I was going to compare Ohio's rollout versus New York's rollout, like, I mean, Ohio, I think, has done a lot of things right. Jason will make the joke about ace versus tense, and I get all that. But I'm also like, look, we know that, again, we're trying to regulate human behavior. We're not trying to establish a new human behavior. And whether we're talking about consumption lounges and human beings just wanting to be able to enjoy cannabis with their friends or family or whatever, or we're talking about sort of a festival situation, that's what people want to do. They want to go out, be social, listen to music, eat food, enjoy cannabis. And so I'm kind of happy that people in Ohio are trying to, figure their way through this. And so if nobody gets hurt, if it's still age restricted, if it's still lab tested, and we're clear that there's no contaminants, and if people had a fun time, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it, but I also realize from a compliance standpoint how fucking stupid fuck around and find out is when you're dealing with something that's a federally illicit substance, especially if you have licensed businesses participating in said. So I think that, if it was my license, I wouldn't risk it, but hey, fuck around and find out.
FAFO, I feel you on that, Jenny Beth. I feel you on that.
Now, that being said, also, I always cheer for the bad guys. So, whatever. I'm not a prude. I'm not like, don't break the laws. You can't do that there. Unless you pay me to tell you can't do that.
It sounds to me like they were charging tickets, and then with those tickets, you got cannabis basically as a gift. It sounds like kind of.
It's the bodega model. Okay,
yeah.
They're just trying to push the envelope and figure out ways to get product into customers' hands. I mean, when you say you cheer for the bad guys, Jenny, then you'd be cheering for the enforcement division of the Ohio Cannabis Department, right? Because these are not the bad guys.
Yarrow, you know what I meant? I cheer for the people who are breaking the law. Cheer for that guy and cops to run a little bit faster down that fucking alley and make that left turn first. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So don't twist my words.
Twisting his joints.
Fair enough. And on that, I guess it's time to roll one up, and we're going to roll this show up. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in and daily to listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution. Tested is now available, and to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners Anthony out there in the metaverse, and thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we're off.